All right, we are live. Everyone, welcome to another edition of this week's Slurve Expert Chat with myself, Davis Mattek, and Evan Silva. Make sure to follow me on Twitter, by the way, at Davis Mattek. I assume you probably already follow Evan, but if you don't follow me on Twitter, do that for me. I have a long-standing bet with David Kitchen on Twitter followers, and I'm currently crushing him, so I would like to keep that pace. Evan, how you doing, buddy?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Just trying to get my Dak Prescott analysis on point.
Well, let's do it because that's all anyone wants to hear about is how much we love Dak Prescott, what we think of the Cowboys' offense with Dak Prescott. I was saying this to you before we got on, but I'm gonna have him 100% both sides. He's gonna be the cover boy of my article. Like I'm ready. I'm ready to go all in on Dak Prescott.
I'm pretty much right there with you. I mean, I'm going to continue evaluating. You know, we have, I think, 15 days before week one. But dude is the stone minimum. He's been great in the preseason. He rushed for 41 career TDs in the SEC. Ron Jaworski compared him to Donovan McNabb coming out of college. He has one of the best possible setups. He has the best offensive line in the NFL. He has Dez Bryant. He has Terrence Williams. Terrence Williams can score TDs. He's got Jason Witten as his security blanket, and he's got a great schedule. Week 1 against the Giants at home. That's a good spot for Dak Prescott. Week 2 at Washington. That's not an ideal matchup, but it's above average. Week 3 at home against the Bears. The Bears DBs keep going down, man. Kyle Fuller, knee surgery. Today, Tracy Porter was concussed. Their safeties are weak. You know, that's a good matchup at home against the Bears. Week 4 at San Francisco. San Francisco is just shelling out plays.
They're gonna be like, it's gonna just be take everyone against San Francisco all year long. It's gonna be amazing.
I mean, Todd Gurley week 1 against the 49ers.
Lit. Who do the Cardinals play week 1?
They play shit. Why can't I remember this?
Because I think without salaries, without looking, I bet I can build my week 1 team. Like I'll be able to get pretty close. I might have to like punt tight end or something, but I would bet it's gonna be Gurley, DJ, and Dak for sure.
The Cardinals play the Patriots.
Oh,
week 1.
DJ, yes, light it up. Let's go.
You like it? Yeah? You're not worried about Jamie Collins locking him down in the passing game?
I'm not worried about any linebacker locking David Johnson down. Maybe a couple cornerbacks can hang with him, but he's bigger than all the corners. Yeah.
Okay.
No, so I think a reasonable question, though, with Dak is, does this hurt Dez? Because, like, I mean, Dak, I think we both kind of like him, but he's not a finished product. Like, that touchdown he had to Dez in the preseason was a really nifty throw, but it was, like, kind of one of those old Favre throws where it's like, you know, if the wide receiver doesn't get it, the defensive back's getting it for sure.
Yes.
So I think it's reasonable to worry about his yardage ceiling a lot in a Dak Prescott offense because they're going to run even more than they were planning.
I agree, and some good analysts have said that they're not going to bump him down very much. They're not going to bump Dez down very much. I am going to bump him down. He's my wide receiver 5 right now. I have him as a top 5 pick, and I'm going to move him down toward the Sammy Watkins range in PPR to where he's going to be like wide receiver 14 behind Mike Evans, behind Jordy Nelson, behind Brandon Cooks. But I think that that's still a spot where you can get him and be willing to take the discount. I think that he may start to go 3rd round in some drafts.
Yeah, I'd be all about that if I could get him in the 3rd round.
How do you feel like this affects Ezekiel Elliott?
Well, I mean, the dream, the complete dream would be that they'd install some read option stuff because I don't think there's they don't have any of that in the playbook right now. Dak obviously did some of that in college and would be the exact because he's big enough that you don't like. RG3 was never a great fit for the read option because he was too little, but Dak is big enough you don't have to worry about him getting hurt every time he gets tackled by a linebacker. I think this does kind of take away from him, though, in the sense that they have another option at the goal line. Like, I think Zeke is probably 2A obviously Dez would be the first and Elliott would be the second, but I think, the quarterback blast play is going to be something that they install for sure in the red zone.
Yeah, with Ezekiel Elliott, I don't think it affects him very much because I think that his workload upticks.
Yeah.
They're gonna ride this dude, and
Oh, you can project him for an extra 25 carries now, I think.
I think that his workload weekly on a weekly basis has a great floor and has as much upside as any running backs in the league. So I'm not going to downgrade Zeke too much. And what we have seen a lot from Dak Prescott in the preseason was like moving pockets where they're rolling him out. I mean, this has been a consistent theme, and I would fully expect to see that in Week 1. We've seen that kind of a thing work in Denver, where Gary Kubiak and Mike Shanahan, big fans of having a lot of movement from the quarterback on rollouts, and I think that has been a lot of part of the reason for the Broncos' rushing success. A lot of bootlegs and freezing defenders and having the quarterback on the move, and so I like that for Ezekiel Elliott too. And this is still going to be an impose their will rushing offense. I mean, the offensive line has stayed healthy throughout camp. They have depth on the offensive line. Ronald Leary, Chaz Green, their third-round pick from a year ago, has started to play a little bit better. And I still have a high level of confidence in Ezekiel Elliott, and I have him as right now the number 4 fantasy running back.
Where do you put Dak in quarterbacks right now?
Yeah, that's something that I got to look into. See, like, for me, like my quarterback 21 and 22 are like Jay Cutler, and are you willing to put him over Jay Cutler? I mean, I think I would rather use him in the first month than Jay Cutler.
Yeah, like I just think you're not looking for floor with quarterbacks that late at all, like because you can get any quarterback, it doesn't matter. You're only looking at ceiling, and Jay Cutler with only Alshon as a weapon, basically, he just doesn't have a ceiling. There's just he doesn't have a 5,000-yard season in his range of outcomes. He doesn't have, a 40-yard touchdown range. Like, that's just not something he could do. But, Dak could run for 600 yards over a season.
Mm-hmm. Let's get to some questions in chat. What were your thoughts on Le'Veon Bell last night? I thought he looked back to 100%.
Yep.
I mean, he's got that like that springy, like bouncy sort of explosiveness where he makes a hop and then he's just he can run by a linebacker. Thought he looked great. I thought it was interesting that he and DeAngelo Williams split first team snaps equally.
Yeah.
And I think that if DeAngelo Williams plays well in the first 3 weeks, he will have a role when Le'Veon Bell comes back.
I definitely agree. I think that's something that you and I both kind of agree on, is that the current ADP for Le'Veon is kind of nuts.
I mean, I'm not taking him in the first round,
Yeah.
and now ever since the suspension was dropped from 4 to 3 games, he never gets out of the first round now.
Well, let's talk about this draft that we're doing right now for Roto World. This draft is insane. That's the nicest possible way that I could say it. This draft is completely nuts, dude. Like zero RB is the most amazing theory. But if the whole league is doing 0 RB,
right,
it gets nuts. Like these teams, like Brandon Cooks is like a second-round pick. Like T.Y. Hilton is going at the 19th overall pick. Like, I don't know, man. That just seems crazy to me. Like, I could never take T.Y. Hilton over Jamal Charles. I can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something that we will need to explore as people. I'm going to link the draft in the chat.
Yeah.
Is there as much of an edge in going 0 RB when literally 7-8 dudes in the draft are either going 0 RB or wide receiver heavy?
Yeah.
Because then we should start to see some running backs at really, really good values. I love getting Matt Forte as the RB18 mid to late 5th round. I think he catches a lot of passes. Yeah, I don't know, but I don't think that the running backs really have been that great of values. I mean, Frank Gore, Ryan Matthews, Matt Forte, Jeremy Hill, Carlos Hyde in the fifth round. I don't know. It'll be an interest. I like how Leviton got Latavius with the last pick of the fourth. But yeah,
Yeah. So we just got a question in chat. Who are some guys that we're reaching for on ADP in redraft? Mine, if you look in that draft that Evan just linked in chat, I took Moncrief with the second pick in the third round. So that basically answers that question for me. He is the guy that I am most confident in taking that like gnarly leap to the next level.
who?
Dante Moncrief.
Oh yeah, yes, I totally agree. I'm on board, man.
Yeah, there's some other guys that I think that I'm going. I tend to like to stay relative to price. One guy that I've been taking, and I think I did it in this draft as well, is Alan Hearns. I'm comfortable taking Hearns about around before his ADP. Like I think that the market has basically corrected itself now. Like Robinson and Bortles, I think, are being priced appropriately, but you can still get Hearns like relatively late, and I think Hearns could have. He could finish like the wide receiver 23 in fantasy. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all.
One guy who I've really warmed up to a lot, especially with Laquan Treadwell basically doing nothing in camp, is Stephon Diggs.
Diggs. Yeah.
Who I think has a really good floor right now as the clear-cut number one for the Vikings. The question is his upside because the Vikings are a run-first team. How many targets is he going to see? I think that his target projection has risen throughout camp because Treadwell has not stepped forward, and his upside really comes into play if AP goes down, because then they become a shotgun three wide receiver team, and they play indoors, and Teddy becomes this year's version of 2015 Andy Dalton, I think, and Stephon Diggs rips it up. So Stephon Diggs is not a guy who I was getting much in the offseason, but I've started to draft him. I mean, 7th, 8th round, love getting him in those spots.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that one as well. He was a guy I loved in college, and he played crazy bad his last year, but it was like he just had no quarterback play. The whole team was terrible. They were in the ACC just getting destroyed. Maryland was, but I was still pretty high on him as a prospect. And I think that I can see him becoming. I can see Bridgewater becoming 2015 Andy Dalton. That's like a really good comparison. Like we're not. I don't know. I'm not particularly high on Bridgewater as a quarterback. I don't think he's like. Draft Twitter loves Teddy Bridgewater, and
Oh, yeah.
I'm kind of ambivalent on him. Like
Oh yeah, I remember when he was coming out, someone from Draft Twitter compared him to a combination of Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers.
yeah, those were those, and that was like, and Draft Twitter was probably like, yeah, it's really good. It's a really good comparison. You're right. I can see he has the athletic movements and the cerebral processing of Tom Brady. Like so dumb. I don't know. He just was never that good. He doesn't. He's not accurate enough down the field to really be a game-breaking quarterback.
I mean, if you take the strengths of Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, you have like the second best quarterback of all time behind Cam Newton.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I love it. I love that take because Cam Newton is so good. Cam Newton is so freaking good.
Uh, Most lit, zero RB targets, primarily pass catchers. I have a bunch of these. Do you have any?
I'll let you go first because I'm gonna be a broken record with the one guy.
One guy I've really started to like a lot, and Rich Rebar has really put a spotlight on this dude too, is Chris Thompson.
Oh, that was gonna be my guy.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Jones and Keith Marshall already got hurt. This is a team that has a tough schedule, and their talent is in the passing game, and I think that they're going to have a ton of pass attempts this year. That's one of the reasons I like Kirk Cousins. Chris Thompson has a bad injury history, but he stayed healthy throughout all of camp, and he's essentially unchallenged for their passing down back role. He has great speed and big playability, and he often goes undrafted. I like James Starks. I think that he's going to be a guy who gets some standalone usage, and then he becomes a borderline RB1 if Eddie Lacy breaks down after his offseason of P90X. I like Sean Drone. I mean, I've always liked Sean Drone. He is behind Carlos Hyde, who has essentially zero history of catching passes, a horrible injury history, and already suffered a concussion. So Sean Drone should be on your list. And let me see if I can come up with one more. I still like Buck Allen. The Ravens backfield is very muddled right now, but that's going to be a pass-first team under Mark Trestman. Last year they led the NFL in pass attempts, and Buck Allen is their best receiving back. So I think that in their backfield, he has the most stable role.
Yeah, Sean Drone is one who like hits the worst, but that can be a dude who can end up winning you leagues. Like 100% in this offense with how fast they're going to play, how many plays they're going to run. Like, you get that guy in the 18th round of your 16-team league, Hyde doesn't play, and his 9 points a week in your flex spot can seriously make a difference. Are you buying any of this CJ Spiller hype? That was a good one from the chat.
I will say that in the last two Saints preseason games with the first team offense, CJ Spiller has been very, very involved. And he hasn't really broken any big plays, but he just looks quicker and more confident, and like he has a chance to be explosive. I mean, look, we know the facts with CJ Spiller. He's had really one good season in the NFL. All the other seasons he's been a disappointment. I've jumped on his bandwagon many a times before, and he has burned me. But right now, I mean, it's not a situation anymore where you got to take him 4th, 5th round. It's a situation where you can get him in the 18th round, and when the real games start, you can drop him, and you can go pick up somebody else. So where he's priced right now, it does make sense to go after him. I mean, if you for a guy who costs 18th round, I mean, if he's giving you any production at an 18th round price, you're already beating ADP.
Oh, easily so. And like the thing that sucks about Spiller though is he's like old now. This guy, like, he just kind of wasted his career as a backup.
Yeah.
And injuries kind of robbed him of what could have been. This is a good one from chat. What round should you take Christine Michael in now?
This is a tough one for me.
Yeah.
I need to make a new set of rankings before I say anything confident about this. And I mean, we're covering preseason games. We're covering injuries, and I'm not going to be able to get out a new set of rankings until early next week. And we got first cuts coming up. That's always a bitch on Roto World. But I would say right now, I still probably wouldn't take C-Mike before the 9th round. I'd maybe try to get him in the 10th. But if he's there in the double-digit rounds, I mean, I think he's worth a shot. I think he has a chance to start week 1. I think that Thomas Rawls is still the favorite, and if I was going to place a bet today, it would be on Thomas Rawls.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that Christine Michael has like 25% chance to be the week 1 starter.
Yeah. So this is a pretty good one as well. Does the running QB data have you guys shying away from pass catching RBs in those systems? Generally, I would say no, but it's because running backs with running quarterbacks gain so much value. They gain like 0.6 something yards per carry playing with a running quarterback. Like, being in that system just adds so much more value on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, like a guy like LaShawn McCoy, he's in a great spot. For his ADP, Jonathan Stewart is actually in a good spot because nobody wants to take him, but he plays in a great offense where he is going to get scoring chance. He's not going to catch a lot of passes. The one guy that I'm concerned about though is Duke Johnson because he's not a bell cow back like these other dudes, and he's not going to score TDs. Because Isaiah Crowell is going to be the goal line back and the early down runner. So where is Duke Johnson's fantasy value going to come from then? And you hope that it comes from his receptions. But if he only catches like 45 balls this year, he's not going to help you. He's certainly not going to be He's not going to help you on a weekly basis. He's essentially going to be Gio Bernard, who, I mean, I know that some people like him, but he never actually helps you win fantasy weeks. You know, he's just a guy that maybe you put in your lineup and you hope for like 9 to 12 points, but he doesn't score touchdowns. He actually, I mean, he doesn't really catch that many passes. I know people think of him as a pass-catching back, but he's not out here catching 70 balls like Devonta Freeman. You know, he has like 50 catch seasons. So, and I think that Duke Johnson falls into that category, and it's going to be a big drain on his fantasy value.
Yeah. I don't know how I've gone through a whole offseason without really thinking about Isaiah Crowell, but just kind of these last couple weeks, I've realized that, you know, no Terrence West, and I'm buying into this Browns thing, just this whole thing that they have going on. So, like, I think Crowell could score like 10 touchdowns. Like, that could totally happen.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, their defense is just straight garbage, you know. So, are they going to be in positions to, you know, run in a bunch of short TDs? You know,
yeah, because they're just going to score 1 million points every week. They're just going to just destroy.
You're a wild man.
It's so, like, the thing is I'm so betting against history with the Browns, like, doing good. Like, the Brownsiest thing ever would for all these playmakers to just be the most Tennessee Titans level offense ever. Just, like, tons of, like, you know, 8-yard outs and, like, just asking RG3 to do things he's terrible at. That would be super Brownsy.
Well, one of the things that scared me in their third preseason game is that RG3 was still holding on to the ball too long and taking massive hits. The good news is they have a really good backup who should be a starter in the league in Josh McCown. And I think if Josh McCown went in, then I'd be right back on the Duke Johnson train. But right now, the way the offense sets up, I'm lower on Duke. What do you think about Tajay or Rashard Matthews for the Titans? This is a good one.
I'm team Rashard Matthews here. I think that Tajay Sharp is like has the skill set and the like. When I plugged him into my projection model, it's like, yeah, this guy's like Julian Edelman. He's like small Anquan Bolden. He's going to be a really good possession receiver. He's not going to create a bunch of touchdowns on his own, but he could catch 90 passes a year for the next decade, no problem. But I think Matthews has, especially playing with Mariota, has got a lot more upside than that. I think he's more explosive down the field, and I think he'll be like Sharp could get more targets, but I think Matthews will be better like per target.
Eli Rogers in week 1. Eli Rogers is not a Davis Mattek player, I don't think.
He's like Jason Avant. Like,
yeah.
He's like you know who he's like? He's like Baby Hawk. He's like Andrew Hawkins.
No, dude, Baby Hawk runs like 4.3.
He's my size. Andrew Hawkins is I might weigh more than Andrew Hawkins if I don't go to the gym for a couple weeks.
All right, so we could discuss Eli Rogers strictly from a matchup standpoint in week 1 because I think he's a really interesting test case because he was locked in with the ones when Ben was in, and Ben targeted him 4 times in 2 drives in the third preseason game. Who knows what all that means, but I think our takeaway is that we can confidently project him as the Steelers slot receiver in week 1. Yeah. So in week 1, the Steelers travel to Washington, where the Redskins have an outstanding outside cornerback tandem. Boshad Breeland has developed into one of the most underrated corners in the league, and they got Josh Norman, who just looks sick.
Everyone, by the way, how bad take that Josh Norman's going to be bad in Washington? Because there are people say that.
Horrible.
Such a bad take.
So that's going to put some stress on the perimeter for the Steelers, and the weakness in the Redskins' pass defense is going to be in the slot, where they wanted Kendall Fuller, a third-round rookie, to win the job, but he didn't, and an undrafted dude named Deshaun Phillips is going to be in there. So that sets up Eli Rogers for a really good matchup. It's just, Antonio Brown is still going to get 12, 14 targets. Jesse James saw a lot of action in the third preseason game. Marcus Wheaton is still there. I mean, there's no way that he's getting open against Norman. and Bashad Breeland. But I think that Eli Rogers is going to be in play and someone that we will be discussing before week 1 because of the matchup and because of his role in the offense.
Is he minimum salary on DraftKings?
Yes. Well, I don't know about DraftKings. I know he's stone minimum on FanDuel.
So the thing is guys like that don't quite have as much value on FanDuel. Half-point PPR takes away a ton. Because like guys who are basically not drawing live to a touchdown, the most they can get you is like 14, which sucks.
Right.
Yeah.
He one thing I notice about Eli Rogers when I look back and look at his college profile, he had 40 catches as a true freshman, but then he never even got to 50 catches in his 4-year career. He was the slot receiver with Devontae Parker outside for Teddy Bridgewater. I thought that was a little bit interesting, just that he was never a super productive college player, despite being productive basically right off the bat.
That's like, so obviously the production is like an 18-year-old. You're like, whoa, that'll immediately draw you in, like guys who can play that young. But it's also probably a bad sign if he kept getting put behind guys who were drafted in the NFL, which is what happened. Obviously Devontae Parker, and then there was another Louisville receiver who I'm forgetting because there's too many football players, but he would have played behind him as well. I'm gonna look that up right now. We talk about Spencer Ware or Tevin Coleman for Dynasty.
Well, I think that Spencer Ware is a better running back than Tevin Coleman is. I know that the Tevin Coleman truthers would hate that take, and I understand why. But I think
kind of used to be one, but I think I've given up that ghost.
I think that Tevin Coleman was a great college running back, and I think that Spencer Ware is a better NFL back. And Spencer Ware is behind the depth chart on a dude who, I mean, as much as I love Jamal Charles, he is going to be 30. He is coming off a second career ACL tear. Spencer Ware, I think, arguably has more standalone value than Tevin Coleman. It's probably about even, but I think that with the ability edge, I think goes to Spencer Ware. So, God, man, Tevin Coleman truthers would hate this take, but I'll take my chances with Spencer Ware because I think that he's a better NFL back.
Damian Copeland and James Quick were the answers to those last questions. Quick is even younger than Rodgers and immediately outsnapped him. But I do agree with that take. Spencer Ware is like, you know who loves Spencer Ware though? Not like fantasy football people, but like real football people, like guys who like really appreciate like blocking and like fighting hard for the extra yard. That's Spencer Ware, because he's like kind of one of those old fashioned running backs who just goes straight up the gut and gets 4 yards.
Yeah. So what if you own Freeman? I mean, I guess I think you can make an argument either way. I'm not so sure that Tevin Coleman explodes if Freeman goes down, because I don't know how good Tevin Coleman is. He doesn't run the ball like an NFL running back. He's not good in the passing game. He's not built to run in short yardage. He doesn't break tackles. When you give him a ton of space, he can run faster than everyone. We know that, but I think I would take my chance with Spencer Ware.
Yeah. How do you see the Matt Forte Bilal Powell situation playing out? I think that one is pretty interesting, because I do like I'm actually wearing a Jets t-shirt right now, I realized, but I do like the Jets, and I think there'll be touchdown opportunities there. And Matt Forte, over his career, like, he is literally the worst at turning rushes inside the 5-yard line into touchdowns. Like, this dude is anemic, and Powell can do that. So I really wonder and Powell's a pass catcher too, so how do you see that coming out?
Well, I like both of them, and I guess this might sound hedgy, but I like both of them at their prices. I think the Jets are going to throw the ball a ton this year. They are in they don't really have a tight end. They don't, I like Quincy Enunwa as like a long shot prospect, but he wasn't a big part of their passing offense last year. We saw Chris Ivory set a career high in receptions last year. Chris Ivory, who, before that was considered to be able to not be able to catch a cold. So I think Matt Forte could catch a ton of passes this year, and I really like his price in PPR leagues. But I like Bilal Powell too, because we know that Bilal Powell will be involved. He's going to have a role in the offense. He does everything well. Not everything great, but he does everything well. And for where he goes in drafts, 10th, 11th round, I mean, you are going to be able to get standalone value from him. And then if Forte gets hurt, then Bilal Powell becomes an every week fantasy starter. There were times last year where Bilal Powell was a really good fantasy starter.
Yeah, he was. That was one of David Kitchen's finest moments.
That's right.
I was predicting was the worst because he got like 2 touches in that game, but he scored a touchdown.
I know.
Classic Kitchen. What did you think about Funchess last night?
I did not see them play. I will go watch them play earlier this week, but I did see that he got 10 targets. He only converted them to 59 yards. Man, that's low yards per target there, bud.
That is that's not great. That's not great. And that's seriously my worry with him, is that he might be that mold of dude who's crazy, big, fast, and strong, but just can't figure out how to play football. And he had games like that last year.
He's gonna be good, dude. He's gonna be good.
You know how many times I've been burnt? You know how many, okay, if I had been analyzing the NFL when Darius Hayward-Bay was a prospect, I would have been convinced that dude was Randy Moss. I would have been like, this guy is just going to mash everyone all the time. So, I've kind of had to learn to cull the takes a little bit. I kind of got to, because Funchess is definitively a dude that I love. Or would love, theoretically. So I'm trying to keep my heart from getting hurt. We just got a Torrey Smith, Blaine Gabbert question.
Oh,
these are my favorite because Torrey Smith is the WOT.
Torrey Smith, man, I think it's over. I think it's over even before it started.
It's just you don't want to invest in that offense.
I mean, do you think that Chip is hiding his magic for week 1?
No, Chip's too arrogant to do that. He would be trying to. If Chip could score 45 points in a preseason game, he would.
Remember preseason week 3 last year with Sam Bradford?
Oh yeah.
You remember what he did?
I don't.
He lit it up. He went 13 for 13 with 3 touchdowns.
That's right, and everyone was like, "Oh, he's gonna be so amazing."
I know, because everybody wanted Sam Bradford to happen, and then that happened. It was like, "Oh, it's on! It's happening." So Chip doesn't really have a history of hiding his magic in the preseason.
No,
so
he's not interested in doing
his
that.
magic. Do you think he has magic at all?
Yes, I think that Chip Kelly is a very smart football mind. I don't think he's great at communicating with NFL players who are making millions of dollars. And I think that he's crazy stubborn about how he thinks that an NFL offense should work and does not always play to his strengths. And if he's trying to imagine Torrey Smith as one of his strengths, which I think he's smart enough to realize would not be one of them, I think that'll be very inefficient because
what are his strengths? What are his strengths?
Chips as a coach?
No,
or Torrey Smith?
Personnel.
Well, Torrey Smith is the most elite defensive pass interference getter in the NFL, other than Deshaun Jackson.
That's big.
So that's good. Vance, we just got a question about Vance in chat. I think Vance is a great run blocker, good guy to use in the red zone. You got Sean Drone. You got Sean Drone. You got him. That's about it, though. It's a bad offense. It's really bad.
These are the 49ers' offensive strengths.
They're not great. They're not great at all. Best late-round potential wide receiver 2 in their offenses. Boyd, Sharp, Sanu, or Fuller.
Ooh.
I got a strong take here, I think.
Let's hear it.
I really like Mohamed Sanu, I think.
I like him too.
Because Matt Ryan and the Falcons are so bad, they're just going to be losing every game by 20. And there's going to be a ton of targets there to soak up. I mean, we've seen, not that Sanu is this quality of player, but both Julio Jones and Roddy White coexisted in an offense. They both put up fantasy numbers, for sure. And, I mean, Sanu is not as good as Roddy White, but he might be, 75% of like 30-year-old Roddy White, which is like a good player. And
Yeah.
I don't see any ceiling for Fuller at all. And so it would be Sanu, Boyd, Sharp, Fuller for me of those.
Bruce Ellington suffered a severe hamstring injury last night.
Quentin Patton.
Oh my God! I mean, that's what we've come to.
Yeah. Quentin Patton's like wasn't even a prospect. Like they took him in like by the way, do you remember when people used to think that the 49ers were geniuses for taking all these hurt players? Like, oh, you take Tank Carradine with a torn ACL in the 4th round. Genius. Marcus Lattimore. Oh, that might be the worst running back pick ever. A 3rd-round pick on a dude who didn't have knees. This guy couldn't walk. Dude, he couldn't, like, Marcus Lattimore never practiced for the 49ers because he's having trouble walking. He can't walk straight, Evan, and they spent a 3rd-round pick on him.
I'm not even kidding. Like when you broke that down, you sounded like Bill Simmons back when Bill Simmons was the GOAT.
Was when he was good? I mean, that's that's my hero, dude. Like, I love Bill Simmons. So that's a huge compliment.
Calvin Johnson went in round 15 of my draft. Do you respect that gamble?
100%. 100% I respect that. No, that's hustle.
First or last, dude. First or last.
First or last. Which is why I won't. So zero RB, I think at its heart is all about that first or last. Which is why even though I think in some of these drafts it goes way too far, I will not hate on zero RB because if you hit, you're gonna win. You're gonna win your league, and it's not even gonna be a contest. Like no one's gonna have a team. Like if you have 3 wide receiver ones and you hit on this year's equivalent of what Arian Foster was in his undrafted year or whatever, you're gonna smash. No one's even gonna come close to you.
At the end of the year, will Doug Baldwin be a top 5 receiver?
No. I will short that.
I don't think top 5, but man, with the Seahawks kind of limiting Lockett's exposure, I mean, you have to understand that he has so much value to them on special teams. Tyler Lockett does.
It's the best punt returner in the NFL.
They gave money to Jermaine Kearse, who's their best blocking receiver. So I think that they will continue to limit Doug Baldwin at least early in this, or I'm sorry, Tyler Lockett at least early in the season. Last year, his playing time just kind of like increased gradually. So I think we might see that again. And I think Doug Baldwin is the clear number 1. And I'm not calling him Antonio Brown, but he, like his rapport with Russ is kind of like that. I think that in week 1 he's going to be.
Dude, I'm sweating from this take.
Doug Baldwin's going to be really interesting, I think, in week 1 against the Dolphins, who have no defensive backs except for Rashad Jones, and he's like a safety. I think Doug Baldwin is going to be really, really interesting in week 1 as a fantasy play.
I think he's going to.
I got to look at his price though.
Like every year or every week when you go to write up your column, you're going to be like, dude, the Seahawks are in a good spot. How many targets did Doug Baldwin get last week? Oh,
7.
He had 7 targets, but he had 4 catches for 110 yards and a touchdown. But you cannot tell people like, oh, he's like a safe wide receiver 1 start when you're getting like, Martellus Bennett number of targets. So it's like that offense is crazy tough to figure out.
It really is. It really is. It's like almost like an outlier in the NFL because of how hyper efficient it is. I mean, they could become a pass first team, but then be so efficient offensively and so good on defense that they would still be a run first team.
Oh, yeah, because they're going to win a bunch of games and they have like 4 talented running backs they want to use.
What are the chances of Kevin White becoming a thing this year?
Not good. I was not high on him as a prospect, so the fact that he had to take a redshirt year and the coach is still so like every time that something like this happens with a young wide receiver, you'll have at least 3 weeks of the coaches being like, he's destroying every cornerback in practice. There's been none of that. It's been like, yeah, we're trying to teach him how to play on the left side of the field, and he's having a problem playing on the left side of the field. So, like, that's not good. That's not good at all.
Oh, man. I mean, he's not Cordero Patterson. At least he was productive in college. He's a crazy
He was
athlete.
he was productive 1 year in college.
I wish that we would. I wish we would have seen a little bit more from him this preseason. Definitely
Yeah.
don't want to. I mean, look, he's worth putting on your bench as a wide receiver 4. And seeing what happens. And if Alshon gets hurt, then he's going to get force-fed targets. But right now, I mean, yeah, I'm not too optimistic about him being a fantasy starter. This season, right at this moment.
Yeah. This is a really good question from chat, and I haven't even thought about this. But after Gronk and Edelman, who is the third Patriots player you want? Like that. I mean, the Patriots are going to score points. That is a definitive certainty. It's just who is. I think the answer might be James White.
Oh God.
It could, and I don't even like James White. I don't even think he's good.
No, I if you would have asked me this yesterday, I would have been like LeGarrette Blount with like the utmost confidence.
It could be Blount though.
But then guess what happened? Tyler Gaffney was getting first team carries ahead of LeGarrette Blount. I'm gonna still say LeGarrette Blount.
Classic Belichick.
I know, but there's a little bit less certainty with Blount at the moment. Yo, you ready for a hot take?
Hit me.
Garoppolo sucks, and
yes, he does.
It won't even matter for their one loss in the first 4 games. I think they might lose at Arizona, but I think that they go 3-1 at least in the first 4.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. Jimmy, why he's not? Do people think he's good? He's not good.
I mean, he's looked all right at times before. He's just. I think that he still struggles when you get him off of his first read, and that was the scouting report on him coming out of Eastern Illinois as well.
He really played at Eastern Illinois, and people were like, he's going to go.
Hey, Romo went there, dude.
Yeah, and Romo just died.
Oh, my God.
Tony Romo is more personally responsible for pain in my life than, like, any girl I've ever met. Like, because at least with a girl, I'm like, whatever, it's over. Like, Romo is, I'm perpetually Charlie Brown with the football. I'm like, he's healthy this year. The offensive line is good. We've made some upgrades on defense. Like, it's going to be awesome. Nah, just injuries and pain with Tony Romo, man.
Why did I rank Adrian Peterson the second best running back in standard leagues? Because I think that he is the second best running back in non-PPR leagues. I think that his value is much, much less in a points per reception league. Last year in a points per reception league, I mean, he pretty much had everything going his way. He had 327 carries, which even for Adrian Peterson, that's going to be tough to repeat. But he still only outscored Danny Woodhead by 13 points all year in PPR. He was the number 2 overall fantasy running back. We have to understand it was a horrible year for running backs, and he barely outscored Danny Woodhead, and he was outscored by the number 1 back, Devonta Freeman, by 5 points per game. So he's not a difference maker in points per reception. In standard leagues, look, the dude scores double-digit TDs every single season, and I think that he's the number 2 back in standard. I think that his floor.
What odds would you give me that Jerick McKinnon leads this team in backfield touches? Like, what sort of odds?
I'm not going to make that bet because I secretly deep down hope that Jerick McKinnon does.
It's not secret for me. I'm just like on the surface. I'm like the McKinnon. Like, I am the number 1 McKinnon truther.
Oh, whoa! Is that what you're in? Are you anointing yourself?
I'm anointing myself. I think the Vikings would be a better football team if McKinnon plays more snaps than Peterson this year. You know what role Adrian Peterson should play? The Asiata role.
People are not going to be able to take us seriously.
It's such a good take, though. Like, it's just, if you just look, because, I mean, I love Adrian Peterson. He went to OU. He's just great. He's just such a good player. But he just does not have the juice left, man. It's just not there anymore.
We got a couple more questions. Do you see Malcolm Mitchell as a solidified starter for the Pats within the next 2 years?
No, I was not that high on him.
Okay. I do. I really like him. Harmon really liked him. The Patriots. Oh, some of the Patriots beat writers think that when he's healthy, Malcolm Mitchell is going to be the starting X receiver as a rookie. He's a really smart player, and he's a really good route runner, so that kind of fits their mold. Will the Seattle offense be more like they were post Lynch, or go back to ground and pound? I think that
they're gonna run.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think first of all, when they lost Lynch, their their season was like a tale of two halves, and they kind of switched the way that they were playing at mid-season, and after their bye, they became more of a three-receiver team with a lot of quick drops and get the ball out of Russell Wilson's hands quickly because they couldn't protect him. But in the first half, they averaged 29 attempts per game passing. In the second half, they only averaged 31 pass attempts per game. So regardless of whether, it's just they are going to be a run-first offense because their quarterback is so efficient and because their defense is so good.
Yeah.
So either way, they're going to have a lot of rushing attempts.
So have we talked about Jimmy Graham yet? We've been doing like a ton of shows together, and I don't know if Jimmy Graham has came up.
That's because he's irrelevant. Next.
Nah, he is not irrelevant.
What?
So
he wasn't even good when he was healthy.
So the key with players like Jimmy Graham is to buy when no one else wants to. Like last year, you couldn't play him in DFS. You couldn't take him in seasonal because everyone was like, oh, it's Jimmy Graham. He's playing with Russell Wilson. He's going to smash. And then now everyone has completely forgotten that this dude exists. You can get him for completely free, and if he just doesn't play, you can just cut him. If he's not healthy, you can just cut him. But you can't tell me that Jimmy Graham, playing with the most efficient quarterback in football, can't score 12 times. 100% this dude can score 12 times on like 14 red zone targets because that's how good his quarterback is.
Well, one of the things I did before, because people wanted to draft Victor Cruz last year, they were like, "Oh, he'll be fine." The reports were that he was going to be healthy. He avoided the active PUP list to begin training camp. One of the things that I did when I was looking into Victor Cruz was I went back and looked at all the NFL players I could find who had ruptured their patellar tendon. Okay. No one came back successful.
Yeah, that would be the rub.
And it was like a 30-player sample size. So now you can add Victor Cruz into that, and I'm applying that to my Jimmy Graham analysis. So I'm going to let other people waste roster spots on Jimmy Graham, and I'm going to try to gobble up Chris Thompson and Sean Drone.
Look, if you can draft Sean Drone, you got to do it. How dare I stop you from taking Sean Drone? He's too good. He's too good.
All right. Besides your own favorite fantasy podcasts,
I don't listen to fantasy podcasts anymore.
I figured. I try to listen to as many as I can.
Yeah, that would make sense. I prefer to listen to like, because I live and breathe fantasy sports, everything, no matter the sport. That's the lens in which I view. So I actually prefer to listen to like football podcasts, like not fantasy football, but like football stuff, or like a show about baseball, or like whatever sport it is. I greatly prefer that.
I really like to listen to stuff from Greg Cosell.
Yeah.
He's not going to be 100% accurate. No one is, but he gives you his. He's been doing film study for a long time, and I think that he's one of the best in the business. I really like the Audible with Sigmund Bloom and Waldman and Gene and Cecil Lammey. Try to not miss those. I like Numbers Game with Kevin Cole and RotoDoc. Those guys are really sharp. 4for4 Football has great podcasts with John Paulson, and then also the TJ Hernandez, Chris Raybon podcast is so dope for DFS in season. I'm gonna miss people. I like to listen to Matt Kelly.
Matt, that's okay. I'll listen to his sometimes.
All right, yeah.
And I listen to the RotoViz show too.
Totally. So those are a bunch of really good ones, and I'm sure that I missed like several that I'm going to regret later. But those are some great podcasts for fantasy football and real football.
Yeah, I can say you didn't list any bad ones. I was worried I was gonna have to co-sign you listing like a terrible one, but all those ones are pretty good. Yeah. How many weeks do you wait to trade Steve Smith Sr.? I just don't draft him. Don't draft him.
Can we bring this down to hours or minutes?
Yeah, can we just like get him and just like before the end of the draft? There was a good one if you scroll up a little bit. What player has just stuck out to you the most in the preseason? Like what player has played so well that you kind of, got in on them a little bit? I have one in mind.
Okay, go ahead.
Dude, Kenny Stills has played really well for the Dolphins.
Yes.
Yeah. And they're going to have to throw a lot, as you have talked about before. Their defense is the woat, and I don't think either one of their running backs project to be all that efficient. I know the Church of Arian Foster is going to come after me, but they're going to throw a lot, and you can't get first downs throwing 3 yards at a time to Jarvis Landry. So sometimes they're going to have to throw down the field, and Stills has looked really good to me.
Completely agree. I mean, I think the chalk answer here would be Kristen Michael.
Oh, that's super chalk, yeah.
God, I love the way that Zeke Elliott looked against Seattle, and he's not even in football shape yet.
Yeah, he's a goat. Zeke is gonna goat. Was still a terrible draft pick by Dallas.
Yeah, but he should be fun to use in fantasy. Would you think about using Zeke week 1 in DFS?
Who do they play?
Giants.
Oh, yeah.
The Cowboys are at home.
Yeah. I assume the Giants are probably favored by like 3 on the road, I would guess. But yeah, I don't know. I assuming you roster Dak, it's probably more of like a cash play than in tournaments. You probably don't want the Dak, Zeke, Dez stack unless you think they're going to score like 35. But yeah, I have no problem with that. That's pretty hot, actually.
That is pretty.
But that would mean I don't play DJ, which like seems unlikely.
Real off-brand.
Just very like. I'm actually not sure what Zeke's pass catching upside is this year. I don't have anything to determine either way. I know that the last 2 years, Dallas has liked to have those running backs in segmented roles. They've liked to have a guy for third downs for pass catching. But Alf's not that guy.
Right.
And Dunbar is like fresh off the pup. He hasn't even played in a preseason game yet.
He's coming off an ACL and a ruptured patellar tendon.
Right. So I can't see him, 1, waltzing right back into that role, and 2, being as effective as he had been in years past. So I'm not sure, honestly. What do you have Zeke projected for in catching passes? I would conservatively it'd be like 25, but if he has like 40, 45 as his upside, that's really good.
Yeah, no, we have him in the 30s. Actually, we have him early in the low 40s.
Yeah, that seems optimistic to me.
Well, he's a really good receiver, and you can't pull him off the field because he pass blocks like an animal.
Yeah.
Let me see. I mean, McFadden had 40 catches last year, and he wasn't even the starter the whole year.
McFadden is he should have been great. You want to talk about a guy who should have been great? McFadden should have been great. His career bums me out.
Cameron Artis-Payne, the future in Carolina.
Nah.
I mean, I really think that their offensive line and Cam Newton are good enough that they can just pretty much plug a guy in and go. But I don't think that Cameron Artis-Payne is their future. He's a complete jag.
Total jag. Yeah.
Lamar Miller.
Are there any backup running backs in the league right now who you think are like legitimately like the future? I only have like one off the top of my head.
It doesn't usually work that way. I mean,
yeah. Normally you don't stash running backs.
Right. I mean, you stash them, but in case of injury, or because they have like a specialty role.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have we been burned by thinking that Kristen Michael was the future and Niall Davis is the future?
Oh, now Davis is still the future, just like of the world, not necessarily the Chiefs.
He played behind a guy named Darren Reeves.
Yeah, I know. It's the
Yeah.
woat.
So,
Why can't they just see what I see? Let me coach an NFL team. We'd gain so many yards. It'd be unreal.
who is your Gurley handcuff? I like Malcolm Brown, who's had a really nice preseason. I think they're playing tonight, and yeah, I want to watch them. It's Benny Cunningham is the third down back, but yeah, they're playing Denver tonight. But I think that if Gurley went down, Benny Cunningham's role wouldn't really change a lot, and it would be Malcolm Brown in the lead back role.
You think so?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Malcolm Brown is not great. He was pretty mediocre at Texas. He got
Not-
benched for a freshman this last year at Texas.
Yeah. Not great from a metric standpoint at all.
Yeah.
I mean, his production was weak at Texas. His combine measurables were weak. He wasn't the number one high school recruit coming out of high school.
Hey, that's what led me to Stephon Diggs. So there's some latent like ability that I think is hidden there. Like weird stuff happens at college. Like like imagine how bad NFL coaches are, and then think about the dumb stuff college coaches could be doing. Like you just don't even know. So
Is there a player you think will have his ADP rise from this week that will make you not draft him? That's a good question.
could be Dak. Dak could be like an eighth round
yeah.
pick. Dak could be like an 8th round pick, which like maybe I'd do that. I don't know. Seems fun at least.
It seems like something that you would do.
Right, yeah. So maybe that'd be a guy I would take. I don't know. I could see like one of these like floating around like 8th round wide receivers having like a 150-yard game or something and like shooting way up.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Still watching the preseason, man. I mean, we're not halfway through it yet. So I don't know. Does Benny have enough standalone value to draft in the PPR draft? I don't think so. I don't think so. They want to run the ball so much that there's not even going to be a lot of targets. I mean, he was healthy all last season and he only saw 36 targets. He more cuts into Gurley's value than has his own. There is a chance that Todd Gurley gets more receiving involvement this year, and I think in that case he blows the roof off and makes me look dumb for saying don't draft him in the top 5 picks. Where are you with Lamar Miller, Davis?
I haven't drafted him yet. I'm very intrigued by the upside. There's something, even though the coaching staff is all different. There's like those Houston running backs always just kind of draw me back in because I remember the Foster year. It's just kind of one of those like association things, but. Lamar Miller, despite the ineptitude of his coaching staff, has played in the NFL for 4 seasons. He has 2 games with over 20 carries. That is just, I just don't see. It just seems so weird to immediately project him to be a first round pick now. Like he's gonna go, and he'd been great in limited samples, but I don't know. I would prefer the risk associated with Charles over the risk associated with Miller, and that's a question those guys go next to each other.
Yeah, I think those guys are in the same tier. I have Lamar Miller ahead of Jamal Charles, but again, they're in the same tier, and I would not take Lamar Miller in the first round. I would take him in the second round, though.
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll actually here we got one last one. Who's your guys' college teams? Do you have a favorite college football team?
I went to Marquette.
Long and storied college football program there.
Right. So I like Notre Dame. My dad went there, and so that's who I root for.
Yeah, I root for the Sooners. That's where my whole family went. I went to K-State because I'm a Trader. They were super good the first year I was there. They were number 1 in the country for a little while, which was real fun.
Yeah, with Optimus Klein or whatever, Colin Klein.
Yeah, guy still is around. He's a loser.
Is he? Oh, he's still around, hanging there.
Every quarterback that's been at K-State since I've been there, they had this one option quarterback who was really good. His name was Daniel Sams. He was awesome, but they ran him out of town. And every other quarterback K-State has had is Abercrombie and Fitch jeans wearing total square. Like, see him at the bar just being squares. Like, just the worst. And that is how we're going to leave you on this Saturday afternoon. Everyone, make sure to check Evan and I back here next Saturday. Thank you to the Slurve for hosting us.